This is Maxim from Elementor, and today we are going to import a few CodePens. So we are going to see which one are easy to import, which one are difficult to import, and I will tell you the strategy to know how to import them, how to know if they are easy or difficult to import, and like the precise way that you want to go about doing this, the precise strategy. So this video will be mostly unedited, and we'll go through like each design one by one and import it, so you will really know how the proper way to proceed with this. So I have a few of them lined up. So let's start right away. So this one, it was asked by someone in one of the Elementor groups, how we could make a column, like have this kind of behavior and everything. I think Elementor already has something that's similar to this with the mouse interactions, but it doesn't have this kind of shine. So let's get started right away. So the very first thing you will want when you are looking at a CodePen and you want to know if it's possible to import or if it might be very difficult, is to look at the dependencies. So when it comes to HTML and CSS, it's fine. But when it comes to JavaScript, you will want to look what are the dependencies. So you come here to the keg icon. Also, if your view is different, you can just here and change the editor layout. The default view is this one here, but I prefer this one. So let's go like this. And then you will have the keg icon. You click, and here you will see which scripts are being loaded and essentially are required by this design. When it's jQuery, it's perfectly fine because jQuery comes by default with all installations of WordPress. But if it was some other, or if there were many of them, sometimes there are like 4 or 5 of them, and it can get very complex. So now there is only jQuery. That's perfectly fine. It means we can be confident that this is importable and that it will it will like work fine without needing to mess too much with. And here in the CSS part, you see here it says less CSS. So before you import it, you will need to compile it to normal CSS. Although in this particular case, the CSS is so little and so simple, it doesn't look like it will make any difference at all. But just for like good measure, when you see this less or maybe SCSS or some other, you come here and then you click view compiled CSS. This essentially transforms whatever kind of CSS it was into just normal, good old browser understood CSS. So it didn't change anything in our case, but yeah, in many cases, when there will be something in parentheses, this step is necessary. Otherwise, your CSS won't work. All right, so I have this open. Let's quickly make some design that we will then be able to test out with some column. All right, so we have our 3-column design. So let's get a HTML element now, where we will place all the code from the CodePen. So for the HTML, of course, we won't import it simply because really what we want is to integrate the design, but with what we already have that's generated by Elementor. So we'll just import the CSS and the JavaScript. So for the body CSS, we don't really need it. We already have a body that's styled just fine. So we'll go ahead and import the those two CSS rules. So let's create the style tags. No need for capital. And then right below, let's create the script tags. Of course, for the CSS, you don't need to place it in the HTML element in between style tags. You can just place it on your page, if you have Elementor Pro at least, on your page, advanced, and then custom CSS, or like anywhere under advanced and custom CSS, it will work. You only need it one time on the page, as with all CSS. And then let's import the JavaScript. So now too, we have a small kind of something that we need to be careful about. So the JavaScript is fine for when it's in a CodePen like this, but it's not formatted properly for when it's in a WordPress website that might have some optimization plugin where jQuery will be only loaded in the footer. Because this is the jQuery selector, it kind of assumes that by the time the page loads and it gets to the HTML element, if we were to keep the code like this, the jQuery library would need to be loaded for this to work. Because this is the jQuery selector, it comes from the jQuery library, but this is not always the case in WordPress. So that's why I always like to wrap my code in a document-ready event listener, and then we add the jQuery, essentially like just the way to make it work with the dollar symbol. So the way it looks, it's document dot add event listener content loaded, and then just a function that will wrap everything. And then we also want jQuery, and then we pass the dollar symbol. So everything is wrapped in this, and then it makes the jQuery library work, even if it was to be on an optimized page, and if the jQuery library was to load in the footer. So if you looked at any of the code snippets I gave on my website, that's why they always all look like this. All right, so now that this is all set up, we need also, of course, to understand what's going on so that we can give the right thing, the right classes. So let's go back here for a moment. It looks like the CTR needs to be the parent of tilt. And then if we look at the JavaScript, so the mouse enter event is on the tilt div. And let's see what the CTR div is used for. Doesn't seem to be used anywhere. It's just a container. Maybe it doesn't have a specific use. All right, so let's just give this a try. Very straightforward. So CTR expect. Yeah, so it does the use in the CSS. So, okay, so we'll give each column the class CTR. Now already we've seen some changes. So and then because in Elementor we don't have access to all the divs directly, we'll need to use JavaScript to add the divs to the direct parent of CTR, well, to add the class name to the direct parent of CTR, so that it has the same structure as this. Oftentimes, keeping the precise structure is needed, although not always. So we will delete this because I don't think it's needed for the design to work. And now we'll get back or design that looks better. And then we'll go ahead and add the tilde class name to the first child of CTR. So we'll do this first thing. So let's use jQuery because that's what the rest of the code is using anyway. So let's select CTR, which now, of course, is our column. And let's go down one div from there. So like this, let's add the class tilde. All right. And of course, all of this only happens when the DOM content loaded event is triggered. So in the editor, it doesn't happen. So it would only work on the front end. Let's open and let's have a look what's going on. And as you see right away, the results are pretty good. It's when it works on the first try, it's always a good result. Even if now, of course, it's not exactly what we want. Although, like, some people might like it just like this. Usually what we would want is like only the box that we are in as the effect and not all of them. But this still is kind of interesting, an interesting design. And let's try a small change. If we remove this margin, let's just have a look for fun what it looks like in this case. I'm not sure why they merged. Okay, it's because there is a width and an height set, so we don't need this. And the background color, we don't need it also. So yeah, it's we also need to clean up the CSS, so to avoid like interfering CSS and also useless CSS. So that's a step that I had kind of skipped. All right, so this is interesting. Kind of a little bit buggy when you go from one to the other in this way. But yeah, quite interesting. I think I prefer with the margin. So let's bring that back in. Of course, it's margin. All right. And now let's have a look at how we could make it like the way we would expect it to act, so only one at a time. So for this, of course, some JavaScript and jQuery knowledge will be required. Okay, so tilde, the jQuery selector always selects all the instances of an element. So now because we have 3 CTR that each add the class tilde to their direct descendant, it means we also have 3 tilde elements on the page. So that's why it's kind of replicating 3 times this way. So to change this, we would want to add it to each one of them, but individually. Okay, so on mouse enter, animate equals false. And then on mouse move, on mouse leave, mouse leave. Okay. Mm. Essentially, we want it to be each. So tilt.each. The jQuery, I think it works with EQ, the index. I think the index is what is being passed in the function. So let's add this. So for each function, we pass the index. Now we essentially want to wrap this. Okay, that looks good. And then we need to select only one of them. So then it will be tilde.eq index.on. All right. That looks good, I think. Okay, let's try it like this and we'll see what happens. Now something happened. That's not quite right. Oh, maybe it was just my zoom level. So it looks like it's not quite working yet. EQ index. On mostly. Yeah. Oh, it's because there is also a selector that selects all of them in the function. So, event. I think it will be easier if we just move all the functions directly instead of using their names. So on mouse move, we want the function. Okay. And then here is where we'll be able to use the .tq. On mouse leave, we'll get this. So function. All right, let's delete this and let's add the correct index for each one. Not A, but A. Okay, now let's just verify that we have everything in order. So this one is closing A, and then we have those two for jQuery and for the DOM. So everything looks good. Let's have a look and let's see what's going on now. And it's a success. So of course, maybe some of you don't have a lot of experience with code and everything, find all of this a bit overwhelming, but don't worry. I will be providing the code for this particular design and the template, so you will be able to download it and to replicate it. And for those of you who have more experience with this, you will also have been able to understand better all of this work and how we can untangle the code that we get from a pen and to get like a final design that's what we were closer to what we were expecting. So let's move on to another CodePen. Let's update this page. Let's close this CodePen. Well, actually, let me make a note of it in the CSS. And then let's move on to another one. All right, so this CodePen is the one that we are going to test out now. So it's interesting. Let's see if we can export this. There are some, like for a normal website, I'm not certain how the background color changes would be helpful if those were to be different pages. So it really all depends on the specific use case. Of course, if it opens like a navigation, then the navigation should show up. And if it switched to another page, then it would just be on another page. So it would rather be closer to an active styling than what it is now. So this is not really like production ready, but the demo is quite nice. So let's try to see if we can make this in something that that we can use. So the first thing will be to import the HTML. In this case, it will be much more simple to just keep the HTML as it is. So let's copy everything. Let's go back on our page. Let's add it to a new HTML element. And let's paste. All right, that looks fine. I'm not certain where those warnings come from exactly. It's because the SVGs are not closed. Yeah, so let's fix this HTML. All right. Okay. And now let's have a look at the CSS. So there are no dependencies. This is just normal CSS. That's why there is nothing in the parentheses. Let's not import the body. Let's just import what we need for the design. So, okay, that looks fine. I will actually add it before. Okay. So the other ones are there, but it looks like they are transparent. So now finally let's import the JavaScript. So this looks like vanilla JavaScript. There is no dependencies loaded at all, so that's good. All right. Now, when it's vanilla JavaScript, it's less important that it's wrapped into a body-ready event listener and everything, because vanilla JavaScript is native to the browser, so it's always available. So now it should even run when we are in the editor, but the results for this are never perfect, so it's always better to have a look at the front end, like what's happening. So let's actually just update and let's have a look right away what happened. Okay, so it looks like we have this showing. We have some other icons that are invisible. Let's open the console, see if there are any errors. So it looks like there are. So menu item is not pointing to anywhere, and then menu border. Right, now the problem is because there is no body ready event listener, I cannot have the JavaScript before the HTML because the JavaScript runs before the HTML elements are on the page, so then they don't yet exist and it creates problem. Let's place the JavaScript after and let's refresh. Let's see if the error is gone, and it is. Let's just close this, and now let's see if I click. All right. So that's interesting. So maybe I will add some kind of color to my body, or rather what I will do to get something closer to a real world scenario, I will add a color to this section. So let's make it dark. Let's go with 12. Okay. And let's give this section a name. Let's call it sticky nav. And then let's make it as if it was something we were going to use actually. So maybe we would use this on mobile only. So at media, seven 77 pixels, and then a sticky nav display none, and then at 70 for mobile, let's close this mobile here. We'll want to give it a display block. Now, of course, it doesn't show up because we are not on mobile. So let's switch to mobile. All right. So that's good. And we would also want this to be position fixed, bottom of 0, left of 0, and then width of 100 view width. So that looks good. And there's the index maybe of, let's say this, so that it stays above everything. All right. So all looks good. There is this kind of margin on the left that I don't like. We can try to make it smaller just by removing the columns gap here. Okay, that's already better. And then we'll just have a look at the CSS to see what is pushing it on the left. Yeah, so width will be 100%. All right, so that's much better. Font size, padding. Yeah, so the padding is a little bit much. Let's that's much better already. Maybe even less. All right, so that looks that's starting to look very good. So yeah, that looks good. Now so I'm cleaning up a little bit the layout of this. So I think this might be for the circle. Yeah, so let's make it a bit smaller. All right, that's better. border. Everything else looks good. Okay. And there is a menu. Let's see what's supposed to be in the menu. I don't know if we missed it or what. Menu item active. Now the menu is this, so there is no other kind of menu that should be showing up when we click on the hamburger. All right, so let's have a look what's going on now. Well, first let me remove this functionality of the background color changing. So where is it? Let's see. Body background color. Okay, well, here is the array of colors that it's changing to. But I am not sure that we really want this. So this would be the line. I will just comment it out, so it will still be there if we were to want it for some reason. Okay, I think it's good enough now so that we can have a look. Let's refresh. Okay, all looks good. So now we have a mobile CodePen and a I think it's because let's make it fit to the window. All right, so here it is. So it looks pretty good. Everything works. The only thing now would be to link these icons with pages, maybe, and this one to some kind of navigation menu or something. Or maybe just we change this one and we also link it to the pages, because if we have 5 icons here, maybe that's enough, like for the main pages on the website. So yeah, so from here it would that's how we would proceed. Now, of course, from here there are so many options. I won't go through each one of them, but hopefully what we've done has been like helpful enough, and you will be able to customize this design or a similar design to suit your particular requirements. The only thing we'll do is to change these to like some links. So let's go back in the HTML. Let's just find, so background, SVGs. So essentially we would need to wrap each button in a tag element. So a href equals like this, and then we'd wrap it here, and then the same for all of them. Let's just link them to my home page on my current domain where I am experimenting. So, and then let's add it to each one of them. So let's just add the closing first. All right, and you see what's happening. So that's something that when you are importing CodePens in Elementor, this kind of stuff will always happen. There is no reason why changing, like just wrapping the button in a element would make this like normally. But from within Elementor, there are already a lot of inherent code on the page So you need to be aware of this, and this inherent code can change like a bunch of things. It can mess up the design and everything. So then you need to adjust the code so that it works fine with it, and does not like mess the design essentially. So it actually looks like there is nothing on a element that's causing this. So let's just go back and let's have a look at what the CSS we imported looks like, to see if maybe that's what we broke. So menu, display flex. Yeah, so this is the problem. Now we have one more wrapper element before we get to the menu item, because these buttons were the menu item, but now we wrap them. A quick way would be to set all those A elements to display content. So I think that would work. So let's have a look. Menu A, display content. Let's have a look on the front end to see if it fixes it. No, it doesn't. It's, yeah, I don't have the right value. It's it's contents. Well, I was close. All right, so display contents. This fixes it. So that would be a great and quick fix. What display contents does is it's useful only when there is a flex box, and I think it might also work when there is a display grid. But when there is display flex, the way display flex work is the parent and the child are in a direct relationship. So that's why now it kind of broke it, because I inserted in between this parent element and this button menu item child, I inserted another element that then became the first child. So, well, the direct child. And this was a child of the child. And that's just not how display flex works. Display flex work directly with parent and child relationship. But thanks to display contents, it tells the flexbox to, hey, all the A items under menu, all those A tags element, just display directly their contents and act as if they were not there as a HTML element. Just show their content directly and otherwise ignore them regarding the layout and everything. So that's why this worked, and this fixed everything right away. The problem with display content is the support. So let's have a look what it's at now. So 92.58%. It's kind of all right, not great. Of course, Internet Explorer not supported, but that's kind of expected. So Edge, Chromium Edge is supported, Firefox. So for the most part, you're good. Safari has partial support. Yeah, so it says there is a bug that makes it impossible to use. I don't remember testing it to see like what really happens or not. But of course, if it doesn't work or not well on Safari, then it's kind of a deal breaker. And iOS seems to have the same bug. So that's why this is not a good enough solution, unfortunately, because essentially of Safari. So instead, let's just bring flex grow instead. So let's delete this. Let's give flex grow, and then everything works. Now of course, we can delete it from here. And now everything works. So flex grow tells the element to occupy as much space as possible within their like allocated area. So that works fine. And the support for this will be fine across iOS devices as well. So let's just go with this. And now, finally, let's have a look what we have now. Now it looks like we lost a bit of our padding. So let's go back and let's add back the padding. Let's actually move it. Where is it? I think so. Yeah. So let's remove it from here and let's add it here. And okay. It's still a little bit too much to the left. So let's just go and select the parent. Font, okay, here is the padding. So let's increase this. Oh, we have this menu border. Not sure that we want this. Yeah, I think we'll just delete it. So let's go ahead and delete the menu border. That's creating problems. Now let's refresh. And now it's better. And now when we click like what should happen. So the redirection happens. So essentially everything works. They could be centered better. Let's actually try to make it a little bit better by essentially moving the class and the style to the A item instead of the button. Or rather, you know what? Let's just revert back to where we were before I added those the extra CSS. So let's have a look if we can find this. All right, so now we are back to the same thing that we had right after I added those A tags to wrap the buttons. We don't have any CSS on these A elements. So let's find another way that might be better. So instead of creating a new element with these, what we'll do is change the button to this A class. And then the structure will be preserved. The buttons, or the links rather, will have the proper link, and they will keep their proper class. So, and then we just need to remove this. And then let's just do the same for every one of them. So like this, let's remove this and this here. And we need the closing, but the closing A tag instead. All right, and then the same for each one. All right, so now we have our buttons that have been replaced with A tag elements, and because they are the direct child of this menu, and because they have the right class name, well, everything works directly. So let's finally have a look on the front end. Let's refresh. And now the alignment is back to perfection. The structure is fine and everything works exactly as we want. So that's yeah, that's a success. So yeah, it worked quite well. And of course, now, as I mentioned earlier, because there are so many ways this could go, I will leave this tutorial at that. But of course, you could make this make the icons link the way you want, or maybe link them with JavaScript for elements on the page, or maybe make them trigger some pop-ups. So many ways that you would go about improving this design. So this one will also be available in the links in the description. Actually, it looks like we are not completely done with this one yet. We still didn't manage to get this little wave working. So let's get this done as well. So let's bring the variables. Let's add it to the root element. So background, let's add do 12, 12, 12, the duration. Okay, and then we'll want to set this to as well. All right, so let's see. I think we will need a percentage for this to work. Okay, 18, or maybe a view it. Okay. And the height should be lower. Let's just go in pixels. I think it would be easier. Okay, like this looks good. Now we need to see if it's moving to the right place. But now we have a problem that when we click on a link, it changes the page. So we need to remove our links for this to work. So let's just remove them to be able to test if everything is working. All right, let's update, let's refresh, and let's have a look. And here we go, everything works perfectly. So now, of course, if we add some pop-up or some sections, some kind of JavaScript, maybe even this could scroll to some anchor on the page. Like everything would be working to perfection, and it looks pretty good. So now it truly concludes it for this particular design. All right, and finally we'll be importing this design. That's presumably coming from Canva. So judging by the name of the CodePen. So we'll be trying to import this in a arrow section using our own image. And I don't think we'll really need any HTML from here. So you see here the CSS is SCSS, and the JavaScript, it use jQuery. But as I mentioned, we already have jQuery available in WordPress. So, okay. The first thing is to understand how it all works. It looks like it's just selecting the body and essentially setting the whole thing. So in this case, like it looks good in the CodePen, but on a website, that would be the only thing on the page. So we'll need to make some modifications so that only maybe like the arrow section as this. All right, so let's give this a try. So let's go back to desktop mode. Let's add a section above this one. And then let's make this using the background overlay, actually. Just because the HTML structure of the background overlay, I think it will make this easier. So let's just select an image. I think this one might look good for this. Let's go with this one. Let's go with center, center. No repeat cover. And then let's just make this a bit larger section. So under min height, let's go to like 90. Let's remove the top margin. Okay, that's good. Let's give this section the class of wiping, because that's what it looks like is happening. Let's give this text some darker color so that we can see it. And let's add the HTML element. And finally, let's add the style tags and then the script tags for the JavaScript. Let's add the wiping class for safekeeping. Okay, and now, so this also use jQuery. We'll need to reuse what I wrote earlier. Instead of writing it again, I will just copy paste the first part. And then to close. All right. Let's copy paste all the code, the JavaScript code here. Okay. Then for the div, so the div, we need the background. We already have set it using like the Elementor options. There's only this one. I don't think we can use filter blur. Maybe we can also. Let's have a look. Let's go with the navigator. And the section in the background overlay. So let's see. Blend mode, CSS filters. Yeah, so we have some option. Okay. And then what else? Bright. Okay, so let's just make this. All right. So that's good. Now, let's actually update, and we'll need to inspect the page. So that we can, well, it looks like Yeah, it's already working, kind of, but now, uh, hmm, that's interesting. Anyway, let's ignore what's going on. Of course, now the image that's showing up is their image because we didn't change it yet uh, in the code. So let's go get the URL for our image and let's update it in the code and see if maybe we just have something that somehow already works. So let's update the image here. Okay, now we have our image. Oh, it's because it's querying image new image. No, I'm not sure why it's already working yet. Yeah, I don't think this is working really like we want. What is being revealed is not exactly what is behind the mouse. So let's adjust this. So the first thing we want is to select our image. Now, of course, there is the canvas that overlays everything. That's not where we want it. Makes it a bit hard to select stuff. So let's set it to display none. Was it selected? Let's see. No, I didn't have the right thing selected. Let's set this to display none. Then if I click A, we have access. So where is our background overlay? Here it is. So it's Elementor background overlay, and this is what has the image and everything. That's what we want to target. So it's wiping dot Elementor background overlay. Okay. And then let's copy this selector and let's see exactly where we want it. So mouse move over the body. I think we would want this only when it's over the, well, only when it's over the wiping section. Okay, that's good. Then const body width, setup canvas. Yeah, so this also we just want when it's the wiping. So wiping. Now, of course, all variables don't really have a proper name, but let's fix this later. So body append. Okay, so here is where they append the canvas. Let's append it to the background overlay. Or maybe we'll need to append it to so that it becomes the a sibling element to the background overlay. So now let's see. Okay, the rest is just the animation, but it doesn't look like we have anything else to set. Okay, so let's try it like this. Let's go here, let's refresh. So something is happening. It's not exactly what we want yet, though. the canvas now is below. I think what we want is to have it above. I'm not sure if that will make it above, not really. Yeah, we would need it to be a sibling of this. So we'll just append it to, or maybe prepend it. Nah, because then this will become hidden also. Well, maybe it would be interesting. Let's try this. So let's append it to this section directly. Let's refresh. Okay, so now it's closer, but of course the image is still not showing like where we are moving. What's showing is something different than the kind of preview that we have. And this should have to do with the way the image is set up. So let's actually close this and let's refresh just to see. Still, the effect is kind of interesting, but it's not quite perfect yet. Let's go to the canvas. So wait, get context. I think this needed to be changed as well. That's why there was some kind of offset. Okay, so let's see what image show up where about, and let's see if we can just change the settings so that it fits this. So the sky would be to be about in the middle. Let's have a look from the background overlay, the opacity, and now it was quite low. Let's make it like this, and then let's try to see if okay, so it was at the top of the image. Maybe, or yeah, just default. If we use default everything, maybe then that's how the canvas is set up. Let's just check. Not quite, but very close. And it looks like we still have this offset with the mouse and where the everything is revealed. If I move this to top center, or maybe the size will need to be covered. Let's try it like this. Oh, bingo. And there we go, finally. So yes, so the design works. Can even erase our text. Of course, probably with the index, we could adjust it so that we can see it. We could decrease the blur so that it's kind of better. We could increase the size of what is revealed so that it's kind of not so few, and we can change the delay before it gets covered again. So all of this, it's all in the code for us to play with. So it would be where we change the timing that is before it gets covered again. And like many other small settings for many different things. I think for now we'll just keep it at this for this one. I think it's good enough. We've replicated it for the most part, and using a custom cursor, for example, you could easily align it or just adjusting the code a little bit. Now I won't go through to find exactly where the which change needs to be done to make it like the circle that's revealed more in line with the actual mouse cursor. But this can easily be found out. This video went long enough as it is. And of course, you will also have access to this one. In the video description, you will find the download and the code and everything. So yep, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please let me know and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.